Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Aaron Matrano. I'm a chef based out of here in LA. I spent some time working with some great chefs, including Gordon Ramsay and a few great other chefs. And today we're going to do a Cavatelli dish, which is ricotta flour with basil, tomatoes, some red onion, and garlic and olive oil. Variations of, people are going to say, oh, you have to use this type of flour, you have to use this. I mean, honestly, it's just whatever works best for you and whatever you have on hand. For this particular recipe, for the ricotta cavatelli, it's going to be roughly a cup and a half or so of AP flour, and then with the ricotta, it's going to be about half a cup. Yep. I put an egg in as well, just so that it helps to bind it, because the ricotta lends itself to have a little bit more moisture than normal. Okay? Just mix. And once I kind of have it together as like a wet sand consistency, then I'm just going to switch to, and just because I don't want to overwork it. There'll be a tendency for you to want to add water or something. It's not going to look like it's moist enough, but just remember that the moisture hasn't completely distributed itself out throughout all your ingredients, so it's going to be fine. You just have to let it rest, which is what we're going to do. After I bring it together into a ball, like this, there's left, and I'm just going to very, very lightly knead it. Very light. It's not going to be a lot, so that's fine. It doesn't look like it's going to be moist enough for what a traditional pasta dough is, but remember that the moisture hasn't distributed itself out evenly, so it's going to be fine once it rests, right? That's going to go to the side, and then we're going to go on to the next step.
You got to call it, just call it.
Cool. Action. So for this dish, it's going to have tomato, garlic, red onion, basil, Parmesan, parsley, which is kind of the, or kind of ingredients you're going to find in any Italian dish you kind of go around. So what we're going to start with is the cherry tomatoes. You can use cherry, you can use Roma tomatoes, you can really use whatever you have available to you. I like to use cherries for this dish because it's around, once they're cut, it's kind of the same size as the pasta. So when you're eating it, you kind of get a little bit of each component with each bite, which is what you're looking for in any good dish. So for those, just rinse them, and then I'm just going to pick them right off the stem. You don't have to, again, these can be Romas. If you have heirlooms, that'd be great. Or if you have a variety you grow at home, it's even better. Some garlic. There's a common kind of phrase that if your recipe calls for 1 clove of garlic, you use 2. If you chop it too much, all those oils and all those flavors are just going to go right into the cutting board. So just kind of keep it in as whole and not working with it as much as possible. We'll keep the flavor and the garlic and not on the. So once now that the dough has rested for a sufficient amount of time, we're going to make ropes and then make the shape. So what I'll do is just take it. Take a small portion off. And I'll usually start with my hands, just making it, generally same diameter all the way across. Okay, I'm going to start making my rope. Rusticness to just a little bit of difference in each of them. It's not supposed to be factory made. It's supposed to be a little bit of a uniqueness to them. So for this point here, you're going to need one more thing, which is a fork. Okay? So with the fork, it's going to be kind of like if you know a gnocchi. So you're just going to take the back of the fork, take one piece of the cavatelli, and just let it roll off the back. So it's that shape, and that's cavatelli. You can get a machine that does this. It mounts kind of like a pasta roller that mounts to the side of your counter. But if you're just making it, a small amount, it's fine. You're not going to make a batch for 50 people, that's when you want to use those machines. They do work, however, it's not. When we find these in the supermarket, they're usually made with extruders, which is just basically forcing it, and you kind of lose that character and the uniqueness. Dish, we're going to use a decent amount of olive oil. And as that's heating up, we're going to put the before it's hot, we're going to go ahead and put our garlic in, because what that will do, instead of just cooking the garlic, it's going to actually infuse the oil with that flavor instead of just toasting the garlic and cooking that through. So as the pan is heating up, once you put the oil in, go ahead and add your garlic at that point. Once your water is up to a rolling boil, we're going to go ahead and put in the Cavatelli. All goes in. And then it's going to, I usually agitate the water just a little bit, just to make sure nothing's sticking to the bottom. Okay. And then as the garlic is starting to sizzle and become aromatic, the baby basil or small basil, and just put the whole leaves in there, because I like as the oil from the basil starts to permeate into the dish, versus chopping it ahead of time, and you lose a lot of that freshness. So, and everything again is all the same size. What I like about this dish the most is that it's very fresh and it's very easy to do. You can also take it before, once you've made the Cavatelli, you can put it on a sheet tray, stick it in the freezer and freeze each piece, and then throughout the week as you want it, just pull it out and cook it as you need it. So as it's starting, all the water is absorbed into the pasta. The white wine, the water, the oil is all absorbed into the dish. So a little bit more water. So all the pasta water that we saved. Add a couple spoons of that. Touch more white wine. And once that's cooked off, we're ready to go. We'll plate it up and finish it off with some cheese.
Cool. Awesome.
Okay. Okay, that's that.
And then,
Cool. What do you think?
yeah, that's great.
Cut.
Once the cheese is in the pan and the heat has kind of melted it all together, it's just going to go straight onto the plate.